There is a certain kind of person who never loses. Not because they are the strongest in the room, not because they are the loudest, not because they have the most resources, the most talent, or the most people cheering for them. They never lose because they think differently. They process reality at a level that most people never even attempt to reach. They see the entire board while everyone else is focused on a single piece. They understand the game before the game has even started. And by the time the average person realizes what is happening, this kind of person has already won 3 moves ago. That is not luck. That is not natural ability. That is a formula. A deliberate, learnable, repeatable formula. And today, you are going to understand every layer of it. Ayanokoji does not operate the way most people operate. The average person moves through life reactively. Something happens, they respond. Someone provokes them, they react. An opportunity appears, they either freeze or rush in without thinking. They are always one step behind reality, because they are always responding to it, instead of shaping it. Ayanokoji is never responding. He is always the one who created the conditions that made the response inevitable. That is the first and most fundamental shift you need to make if you want to apply this formula to your own life. Stop being reactive. Start being the architect. Most people have been conditioned to believe that thinking too much is a weakness. Move fast. Act fast. Trust your gut. Don't overthink it. And while there is a time for decisive action, the glorification of impulsive movement has produced an entire generation of people who are busy, but not progressing. Active, but not effective. Always doing something, but never actually building anything of real substance. Ayanokoji thinks deeply before he moves. He does not rush. He does not perform urgency. He understands that the quality of your thinking determines the quality of your outcomes, and that the time invested in thinking clearly is never wasted. It is paid back with compound interest every single time. So let us start with the first element of this formula. Outthink. To outthink is not simply to be smarter than someone else. It is to operate from a fundamentally different level of awareness. Most people think about what is directly in front of them. The immediate problem, the immediate reward, the immediate discomfort. Their thinking is shallow, not because they lack intelligence, but because they have never been taught to think in systems, in patterns, in second and third order consequences. They see what is happening. They do not see why it is happening, what it is connected to, or what it will produce 6 months from now. Ayanokoji sees all of that simultaneously, and that vision is what separates someone who plays the game from someone who controls it. The first practice of outthinking is to slow down your conclusions. Every time you reach a quick conclusion about a situation, a person, or a problem, pause. Ask yourself what you might be missing. Ask yourself what assumption you are making that could be wrong. Ask yourself what the person on the other side of this situation is thinking, feeling, and trying to achieve. This is not weakness. This is precision. A wrong conclusion acted upon confidently is still a wrong conclusion. The speed with which you moved means nothing if the direction was incorrect from the start. The second practice is to study human behavior relentlessly. Ayanokoji's greatest advantage is not intellect in the abstract. It is his deep understanding of how people think, what they want, what they fear, and how they will behave under different kinds of pressure. When you understand human psychology at a deep level, people become predictable, not in a cynical way, in a clear way. You stop being surprised by betrayal because you understood the incentives. You stop being confused by resistance because you understood the ego that was involved. You stop making the mistake of assuming people will behave rationally because you understand that most human behavior is driven by emotion, not logic. That understanding is one of the most powerful tools you can ever develop. Third, learn to read what is not being said. Communication is not just words. It is timing, tone, body language, what someone chooses to emphasize, what they carefully avoid, the gap between what they claim and what their actions reveal. Ayanokoji listens to all of it. He is not just hearing the words, he is reading the entire signal. Most people are so focused on what they want to say next that they barely register what is actually being communicated to them. Start listening more. Start observing more. Start treating every interaction as a source of information. Because it is. Now the second element. Outlast. This is where most people fail. Not in the thinking phase. Not even in the execution phase. They fail in the staying phase. They start strong. They build momentum. And then somewhere in the middle, in that long, gray, unglamorous stretch where progress is invisible and the end feels distant, they stop. They don't make a dramatic decision to quit. They just quietly slow down, find distractions, tell themselves they'll pick it back up later, and later never comes. The ability to outlast is not about endurance in a physical sense. It is about a deep psychological relationship with time and with discomfort. Ayanokoji does not operate on short timelines when the situation requires patience. He is comfortable with delay. He is comfortable with silence. He is comfortable sitting in a phase where nothing seems to be happening, while internally everything is being set up. That comfort with the long game is something you have to deliberately build, because everything in modern life is designed to make you impatient. Every platform, every notification, every metric is engineered to give you instant feedback, instant gratification, instant results. And when reality requires a longer timeline, most people experience that gap as failure. It is not failure. It is just the actual nature of anything worth building. The psychological skill of outlasting begins with redefining what progress looks like. If your only definition of progress is visible, external results, you will lose your sense of momentum the moment those results are not immediately apparent. But if you understand that progress is also happening at the level of skill, character, systems, and positioning, then you can find evidence of movement even in phases that look stagnant from the outside. Every day that you stay consistent when you could have stopped, you are building something that cannot be measured yet, but will absolutely be felt later. That is real progress. There is also the dimension of emotional outlasting. Every significant pursuit will include moments of doubt, frustration, humiliation, and uncertainty. The people who succeed are not the ones who never experience those things. They are the ones who experience them fully and keep moving anyway. Not by suppressing the emotion, not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by refusing to let it make decisions. There is a difference between feeling doubt and obeying doubt. Ayanokoji feels. He is not a machine, but he does not let feeling become the final authority on action. The plan continues. The work continues. The standard does not drop because the mood dropped. Outlasting also means outlasting other people's opinions of you. This is underrated. So many people abandon their path not because they stopped believing in it, but because someone else expressed doubt, someone else questioned the logic, someone else didn't understand the vision, and their lack of understanding made the person feel foolish for trying. Ayanokoji does not need external validation to maintain his direction. His internal compass is calibrated by his own analysis, his own standards, his own conclusions. When you build that kind of internal authority, where your own reasoned judgment carries more weight than the noise around you, you become incredibly difficult to stop. Now the third and final element, outplay. Outplaying is not about being ruthless. It is not about manipulation for the sake of ego, or winning for the sake of winning. Outplaying, in the truest sense of this formula, means executing so well, adapting so efficiently, and positioning so precisely that the outcome was never really in doubt, even when it appeared uncertain to everyone watching. It is the difference between someone who hopes things go their way and someone who has designed things to go their way. The foundation of outplaying is preparation that goes deeper than what is expected. Most people prepare for the obvious scenarios. Ayanokoji prepares for the unlikely ones. He thinks through what could go wrong. He identifies the variables he cannot control and builds contingencies. He is not paranoid. He is thorough. And that thoroughness means that when things deviate from the plan, which they always do, he is not derailed. He is simply executing contingency plan B, while everyone else is still processing the deviation with panic. Adaptability is the next layer. Rigid strategies fail because reality is never exactly what you anticipated. The people who win consistently are not the ones with the best original plan. They are the ones who can read changing conditions in real time and adjust without losing their composure or their direction. Ayanokoji does not fall in love with his own plans. He falls in love with the outcome, and he will change the route as many times as necessary to reach that outcome. That detachment from method, while remaining attached to objective, is an incredibly powerful mental posture. Outplaying also means leveraging your strengths while understanding your limitations with complete honesty. Most people either overestimate themselves and take on things they are not equipped for, or underestimate themselves and avoid opportunities they were built for. Ayanokoji has a precise, unsentimental understanding of his own capabilities. He does not deploy himself where he is weak, unless he has to. He positions himself where his specific abilities create the maximum possible advantage. That kind of strategic self-awareness requires you to do something most people find deeply uncomfortable. To look at yourself with full honesty, without ego, without the inflation that self-protection creates. There is also the dimension of emotional positioning, in competition and in life. When others are emotional, the person with the clearest head wins. This is not complicated. When someone provokes you and you react, you have given them information. You have shown them what moves you, what threatens you, what can be used against you. Ayanokoji gives nothing away. His neutral exterior is not coldness, it is strategy. When you stop broadcasting your emotional state to everyone around you, you stop giving people the tools to manipulate you. Your peace becomes a kind of armor. Now let us bring all three elements together, because they do not work in isolation. They work as a unified system. You outthink first. You invest the time and the mental effort to understand the situation more deeply than anyone else involved. You study the people, the incentives, the patterns, the likely outcomes of different approaches. You remove your ego from the analysis, so that you are seeing clearly rather than seeing what you want to see. You develop a plan that accounts for multiple scenarios, not just the ideal one. Then you outlast. You commit to that plan with the understanding that it will take longer than you want, it will be harder than it looked, and there will be phases where nothing seems to be working. You build the psychological infrastructure to survive those phases without abandoning the work. You develop a relationship with patience that is not passive, but active, where waiting is also a form of positioning. And then you outplay. You execute with a level of precision and adaptability that turns your preparation into results. You adjust in real time without panic. You leverage your strengths deliberately. You maintain your composure when things get complicated. You finish what you started, not because finishing is always easy, but because finishing is the only version of the story that matters. This formula sounds clean when written out. In practice, it is demanding. There will be moments when you want to react instead of think. Moments when you want to quit instead of outlast. Moments when you want to improvise recklessly instead of outplay with discipline. Those moments are not signs that the formula is failing. Those moments are the exact test that the formula is designed to help you pass. Here is something that does not get said enough. The Ayanokoji approach is lonely in certain ways. Not in a sad way, in a focused way. When you are operating at this level of intentionality, the average conversation, the average distraction, the average way people spend their time, it stops being appealing. You become selective, not because you think you are better than others, but because your attention has become a resource that you protect. Every hour you spend in noise is an hour you are not spending in clarity. And clarity is where this entire formula is built. The people around you may not understand why you have become quieter, why you react less, why you are less impressed by things that used to excite you, why you seem more patient, why you seem harder to rattle. Those are not signs that something is wrong. Those are signs that the operating system is changing, that the shallow, reactive, emotionally driven version of you is being replaced by something more precise, more durable, more effective. You also need to understand that this formula is not about winning against other people as your primary motivation. The moment your primary drive is to beat someone else, you have made your progress conditional on their existence and their performance. Ayanokoji does not need an opponent to be excellent. He is excellent because excellence is the standard he holds himself to regardless of the competition. Apply this to your own life. Stop measuring yourself against other people's timelines, other people's results, other people's highlight reels. Measure yourself against the standard you set when your mind was clear and your values were honest. Progress in this framework is not always loud. It is not always visible. Some of the most important work you will ever do will happen in complete silence, with no audience, no applause, and no immediate reward. You will sit with a problem longer than anyone else would. You will stay consistent through a phase that everyone else abandoned. You will make a sacrifice that no one around you even notices. And months or years from now, those invisible investments will produce results that look effortless to everyone watching. Because they did not see the infrastructure. They only saw the outcome. That is the Ayanokoji formula in full. Outthink by developing depth of analysis, understanding of human psychology, and the discipline to remove ego from your conclusions. Outlast by building a psychological relationship with time, discomfort, and uncertainty that allows you to keep moving when everything in you wants to stop. Outplay by executing with precision, adapting without panic, leveraging your strengths deliberately, and maintaining composure as a strategic advantage. This is not a temporary mindset you adopt when you feel motivated. This is a permanent shift in how you process reality, how you make decisions, and how you carry yourself every single day, regardless of conditions. The formula does not turn off when you are tired. It does not pause when things get hard. It becomes the lens through which you see everything. Every challenge, every setback, every opportunity, every interaction. You are not building a highlight reel. You are building a foundation. And foundations are not glamorous. They are not applauded. They are just absolutely necessary. Lay yours with the same precision, the same patience, and the same quiet confidence that this formula demands. Outthink, outlast, outplay. Not as a slogan, as a standard you hold yourself to every single day. In the small moments, in the hard moments, in the moments no one will ever see. That is the formula. Now go build something with it.